Okay, we finally arrived at the day where we are going to dissolve the Union. So states are going to leave. The question for you is what causes the final axe to drop? What causes them to secede? So the questions are who wins the presidential election of 1860? What state is the first to secede? And what's the South's new government called? And who is its president? Okay, so the election of 1860 is probably the most famous election in this course. So you must know that date, 1860, and these men. So these men are going to run against each other. Abraham Lincoln, the Republican, Stephen Douglas, the Northern Democrat, John C. Breckinridge, the Southern Democrat, and John Bell of the Constitutional Union Party. Okay, a couple of things. One is you see Lincoln going up against Douglas again. Remember the first time that was for Illinois Senate seat. This is for President of the United States. Also, you see again the split of the Democratic Party, which may cause a problem for them. So a couple of pictures. Here are the gentlemen that we're talking about here. Lincoln, Douglas, the little giant, Breckinridge, and Bell. Okay. As to the fallout, here is the map. See, Lincoln's in red, Breckinridge is in this one purple color, Bell is in yellow, Douglas is in blue. If you added all these up, Lincoln wins pretty substantially because of the population up here in the North, and the North's primarily going to vote for him. You see, there's not too many, Georgia, North Carolina, but other than that, electoral votes down here. So Lincoln wins. This sets off a firestorm in the South. So the winner is Lincoln. The impact, Lincoln's win will be viewed in the South as a win for abolition. That he's going to come in and get rid of all slavery in this nice swoop. And so they say, we're not doing that. We're not giving up our way of life. We would just leave the United States of America. Otherwise, we will secede. So the first state to lead this charge is South Carolina. Will secede the Union. They will leave. How many states will leave by February 1st of 1861? 7. So 7 states will go out. A couple of things with that. Here is secession. When South Carolina announces its secession, this is printed in the paper, the Union is dissolved. So just even by South Carolina leaving, the United States is no more. And Lincoln's got to figure out a way to keep it all together. John Crittenden offers a solution, a little too late and also a little too wrong. So his solution is an amendment to the Constitution that would guarantee slavery where it existed. So he's going to tell the South, there's no need to leave. There's no need to leave South Carolina. We're going to keep slavery where it exists, and we will reinstate the Missouri Compromise line and extend it to California. So anything below that will come in as slave. So no worries, no worries. Okay, a little clip on that. This shows a little slide about it. And just wanted to point out, it says constitutional amendment would recognize slavery existing below the Missouri Compromise line forever. It would keep future amendments from tampering with slavery. So no one could touch slavery forever after this. So they put in an amendment that said no amendment can be made against slavery, period. Lincoln will refuse to consider this. He will say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not forever keeping slavery just to hold this union together. So he refuses. Next page is going to pretty much say that he vetoes it. So he refuses to allow this to go in as law. So the Confederacy is going to form in 1861. Their capital is Montgomery, Alabama. They're going to pretty much kind of use the U.S. Constitution and make some changes to that document. So they declared themselves a new nation, a confederacy. You need to know definition of confederacy is a friendly association of states where one can leave at any time. So it is not a union. Okay, so it is a nation, but anyone can leave at any time. It says they're going to declare that each state is independent. That goes back to what I said, and guarantee the existence of slavery in this territory. We'll also ban protective tariffs because South Carolina's had a problem with that for years. So the Confederacy will ban protective tariffs, and also put the president in as one term for 6 years. One term, 6 years. Who was elected as their president? Jefferson Davis of Mississippi. He has an interesting background, Jeff Davis. He had an older brother who was 24 years older than him, who pretty much raised him. His older brother was somewhat wealthy, a lawyer, put Jeff Davis up pretty nicely on a plantation, and Davis became a farmer. He had an interest in politics, however, and was appointed to most of his positions. Is Secretary of War, Defense at one point for the United States. And then now he's going to be named as president of the Confederacy, as while he was also in Congress, he's going to argue against the Compromise of 1850, and so on and so forth. So he's definitely pro-slavery, as he owned slaves. So here is CSA territory. So South Carolina goes out first. The end of these notes will have the rest of these fellows join. Okay, so South Carolina's going out first, and Jeff Davis is from here, Mississippi. Okay, here is a picture of Jeff Davis. So there he is, serving as president. He will not do very well. He was sort of a difficult person and will argue and fight a lot with his generals and with his staff, and just doesn't run things very well. Not as easy to deal with as Lincoln. So anyway, Civil War is going to start now. The South has seceded with the firing on Fort Sumter. Now, it's always disputed, was this a battle or not? I do not teach it as a battle. You do need to know Fort Sumter. You need to know this date, April 12th, 1861. So the Confederates are going to fire first. Here's the deal. Fort Sumter, I might as well show you a picture while I'm talking about it. Fort Sumter is off the coast of South Carolina, off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. I've been there. In the summer, very hot, lots of mosquitoes. Anyway, you can see South Carolina from there, so it's not that far off the shore, and it opens up into the Atlantic Ocean. This was a federal fort, okay? So, just to get our minds straight about it, the Federals have this fort, all right? And they're going to have this fort, and they're going to be in charge of the fort, and we're going to have federal troops in there for the United States government, okay? And they're going to have their American flag, all right? So Federals are going to be in Fort Sumter. The deal is that they're going to start running out of food, and the South Carolinians are going to prevent any food from coming in. So they're going to need food, and Lincoln's going to want to feed these hungry people. And the Confederates tell Lincoln, hey, this is our territory now. You need to stay the heck out. All right. So it says Lincoln calls up 75,000 men to volunteer once we start to see the secession happen after the fall of Fort Sumter. So the shot is fired on the fort by the Confederates. Lincoln's sending in food. All right, and I can show you that on this map. Here, Star of the West, a ship, will arrive on January 9th to resupply Fort Sumter. So it's going to go in to resupply the fort with food. Takes fire from Fort Moultrie, turns back out to sea. Then, eventually, here along the South Carolina coast, they are going to attack Fort Sumter. The South Carolinians are. It says fired first shot on Fort Sumter starting the Civil War, April 12, 1861, from Fort Johnson. So they're going to fire onto Fort Sumter. The Confederates are in red, and they're going to fire onto Fort Sumter, onto the federal troops there. Okay? So they fire onto the fort. Lincoln calls up 75,000 men, and what does he do to the border states? He declares martial law there. So he declares martial law, saying the army is now in control of these border states. He wants to prevent the border states, that would be the states, for example, like Kentucky, Missouri, he wants to prevent them from falling into the Confederate States of America. So he declares in these states martial law, that the military is in charge to try to prevent them from falling to the Confederacy. Okay, so here is the list of Confederate states in order of secession. So these states are going to sign on with the Confederacy now, and they're going to say, hey, that's too big. They're going to say, hey, we're now going to fight for the Confederacy. And they are South Carolina, December 20th, 1860 is the first one. You need to know the order. Mississippi, which makes sense, that's Jeff Davis's home. Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, finally North Carolina, May 20th, 1861, and last, Tennessee. Okay, so you need to know 11, starting with South Carolina, ending with Tennessee, are all going to say, yes, we're going to fight on behalf of the Confederate States of America. Oh, I got him backwards, sorry. Confederate States of America. So they're going to fight for the Confederacy. The border states, so you need to know the ones that are kind of in between there. And they are Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, Missouri, West Virginia. So there are 5 borders, and literally they form a border between the North and the South, Confederacy and the United States. And they're still part of the United States. Lincoln's trying to hold the line there and not let them fall to the Confederate States of America. Okay, with that, let me show you, I already showed you the battle map, so I think we're done. Let's go back to our essential questions, which were, who wins the presidential election of 1860? That would be Abraham Lincoln. The first state to secede, South Carolina. Last state, Tennessee. What is the South's new government called? It's called the Confederate States of America. Remember, Confederacy is a loose association of states that can fall out at any time, okay, and not be together. Who is the president of this Confederacy? Jeff Davis. Not a very good leader. He'll prove to be pretty awful, okay? All right, so make sure you write your summary at the end of this and have answered these questions. Thanks, guys.